Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. If you're someone who thrives on, cutting through all the noise to really grasp the core insights quickly, then you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're plunging into a topic that literally shines a light on some of the ocean's most incredible, often hidden secrets. Imagine this: a world under the waves, not just dark, but actually alive with light. A world where creatures talk, hunt, and defend themselves with these dazzling self-made displays, like a secret language, whispered and shouted in flashes and glows across these huge dark spaces. And it really reshapes how we think about life itself.
It absolutely does. Scientifically, we're talking about a really profound phenomenon, bioluminescence. That's the emission of light during what's called a chemiluminescence reaction by living things. And for you listening, that's basically a chemical reaction inside the organism that makes light without making much heat, which is, well, pretty remarkable when you think about it. It's a natural marvel that has a huge impact on whole ecosystems, really changing the fabric of life down there in the deep.
And what a deep dive we've got lined up. We're drawing from a fantastic stack of sources from the pioneering work of marine biologist Edith Witter, whose amazing research has given us this incredible window into the glowing world, to all sorts of scientific explorations that are finally starting to map this little-known universe under the sea.
Yeah, our mission today is clear. We want to get beyond just the surface facts. We want to pull out the really important nuggets of knowledge and insight about bioluminescence. We'll look at not just what glows, but why it glows and why it matters so much, really trying to grasp, what's fascinating here and how this living light is just so critical for life on Earth.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the start then. When we talk bioluminescence, we mean a living thing making its own light from the inside out. That seems like a really key distinction, because I know there are other ways things can seem to glow, right?
Yeah.
How is bioluminescence fundamentally different from, say, other light stuff, like maybe a fluorescent coral you see glowing under a diver's blue light?
That's a great place to start, actually, because those terms get mixed up all the time, and the differences are really crucial. So at its core, bioluminescence is the emission of visible light by an organism, and it comes from a natural chemical reaction happening inside it. It's a precise internal process. It needs a few key bits. First, you need the luciferin. Now, this isn't just one thing. It's a whole group of small compounds. They're the actual light-emitting fuel, if you like. Second, there's the luciferase. That's an enzyme, and its job is to be the catalyst. It speeds up the chemical reaction, specifically the oxidation of that luciferin. And critically, you absolutely need oxygen for this reaction to happen, much like you need oxygen for a candle flame. Now, in some organisms, it gets even fancier. They use something called a photoprotein. In this case, the enzyme, the luciferin, and the oxygen are all sort of bound together like a prepackaged unit, a little light bomb, almost. And this package is then triggered by a specific ion. Often it's calcium, maybe magnesium. This binding mechanism gives the creature incredibly precise, super fast control over when and how it flashes, almost like flicking a switch.
Okay, so it's a chemical reaction inside the animal making the light. That's the key difference. You mentioned fluorescent corals. How does that work then?
Right, biofluorescence is totally different. With biofluorescence, molecules absorb light photons from an outside source, like the sun, or that diver's blue light you mentioned. Then they re-emit that energy they absorbed, but at a longer wavelength. The key thing is you only see it while it's being lit up from outside. The organism isn't making its own light, it's just transforming external light. Classic examples: chlorophyll in plants, the famous green fluorescent protein, or those corals that glow neon under blue or violet light. They're basically borrowing light to glow. It's also worth mentioning some bioluminescent compounds can also be autofluorescent, which adds another layer of complexity, biologically speaking. But the way the light is generated is completely different.
Okay, got it.
And then there's phosphorescence. That's a special case where the absorbed light energy gets released much more slowly, like over seconds or even minutes. So the light keeps going after the original light source is gone. Think glow-in-the-dark stars on your ceiling or some minerals. But when we talk about living things making light, well, no living things do, phosphorus naturally. Bioluminescence is unique life making its own light from within.
That clears it up perfectly. It's like bioluminescence is the engine making light, and fluorescence is more like a mirror reflecting it almost.
Yeah.
So if this is all happening underwater, what colors are we actually seeing? Is it a whole rainbow down there, or is it mostly one color?
Well, while the idea of an underwater light show is right, it's maybe less of a full rainbow than you might think. Most marine light is actually concentrated in the blue and green part of the spectrum. And there's a good reason for that. It's not random. Those wavelengths just travel best through water. They penetrate the deepest. which incidentally is also why the ocean looks blue to us. It's all about evolution optimizing visibility.
Ah, okay. Survival of the fittest light color.
Exactly. But nature, always has its amazing exceptions. We find some really fascinating, rarer cases of other colors. For example, some loose-jawed fish. These are from genera like Aristostomias, Pachystomias, Malacosteus. They actually emit red and even infrared light, which is incredibly specialized in a world dominated by blue. Then there's the genus Tomopteris, which is a type of marine worm. It gives off this really striking yellow light. And on land, the larvae of railroad worms, Fricus rifrix, they're unique because they produce green light from their body segments and red light from organs on their heads. They're the only land animals we know of that make red light. We even find some Siphocorus amphipods, little crustaceans that can emit orange light. So yeah, while blue-green definitely rules the ocean's light show, the exceptions tell these incredibly important stories about adaptation.
That's truly fascinating. It just completely shatters that common picture we have of the deep sea as this, inert, silent, totally dark place. Edith Witter, whose work we're drawing on a lot today, she said her first deep dive was like the 4th of July down there. That really paints a picture, doesn't it? And it makes me wonder, if it's that active with light, just how common and how critical is this bioluminescence in actually shaping these ecosystems we can't easily see?
It's a vital question, and yeah, Witter's observation is absolutely spot on. It really highlights just how widespread and critical bioluminescence is in the ocean. In fact, in most of the ocean's enormous volume, especially once you get below about 300 meters, what we call the twilight zone, down into the midnight zone, bioluminescence isn't just a source of light, it's pretty much the primary source of light. Without it, these environments would be almost completely devoid of visual cues. Imagine trying to navigate, find food, find a mate, or avoid being eaten in total darkness. Light becomes everything. And the numbers, they're just staggering. They really show the evolutionary success of this trait. A study in the Eastern Pacific found that a remarkable 76% of the main types, or taxa, of deep-sea animals can produce their own light.
76%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 3/4. Compare that to land, where bioluminescence is, well, pretty rare. Fireflies are obvious, of course they stand out. But it's largely absent in freshwater habitats too, apart from a few exceptions, like some insect larvae and one type of freshwater limpet. This huge difference tells us a lot about the ocean itself as this unique evolutionary driver. You see, the ocean has several things going for it that favor the evolution of light. It offers relatively stable conditions. The water is optically pretty clear, so light travels well, and huge parts of it are always in dim light or total darkness. Add to that this incredible diversity of interactions, predators, parasites, prey, mates, and you basically have this perfect evolutionary melting pot, where making your own light gives you a massive survival edge.
It's just incredible to think that this whole world thrives on a language of light,
Yeah.
a language we're really only just starting to figure out. And it's only fairly recently, right, with better submersible tech, that scientists like Witter have actually been able to get a real window into this little-known universe, to actually see these light shows happening. So who are the stars of this glowing drama? Who actually glows down there?
Oh, it's a huge and incredibly diverse cast. When we ask who glows, it's not just a few quirky species. It's a massive catalog of luminous life that spans multiple kingdoms, multiple phyla. It's everywhere. Among the marine vertebrates, the ray-finned fish are probably the most common and, iconic. Things like hatchet fishes, lantern fishes, which have these really complex light patterns, dragon fishes, the famous anglerfish with their lures, and viperfish. It's worth pointing out, though, that among all vertebrates, it's only the cartilaginous fish, like some sharks, and bony fishes in the sea that are naturally bioluminescent. No glowing whales or dolphins, for example, though some might use the light made by other things.
Okay, so mostly fish among the backboned animals. What about invertebrates?
The list for marine invertebrates is even longer and way more diverse. It really shows how useful this trait is. We see it in elegant jellyfish, like Acoria victoria, that's the one famous for GFP or Atolla species, Paraphila, and in those beautiful shimmering comb jellies, the Catenifera. Crustaceans are really well represented too, from tiny copepods like Gossi princeps to ostracods like Vargula hilgendorfi, that's the sea firefly abundant krill, or euphausiids, amphipods, and various shrimp. The clever cephalopod mollusks are another major group, lots of squid like Wattisenia and Octopoteuthis, Delatron, and of course the totally unique vampire squid. Then you have countless worms, scale worms, Chaetopterus, Tomopterus, the yellow glowing one, acorn worms, ribbon worms, arrowworms, or chaetonaths. Even echinoderms get in on the act. Things like brittle stars, some deep sea stars, sea cucumbers, polythurians and crinoids can glow. And we find it in filter feeders like tunicates. You have things like pyrosomes, deep-sea doliolids, and the Ascidian Clabellina miniata, plus bryozoans and Endoprocta. This huge list really shows it's not just some oddity. Bioluminescence is fundamental. It's a core way of existing for an incredible range of life forms, all adapted to their specific niches in the deep. It's mind-boggling. And we can't forget the microorganisms. They often form the basis of larger light displays, or they glow themselves. Bioluminescent bacteria like Vibrio fischeri, famous for living inside the Hawaiian bobtail squid and Photobacterium leonyathi, are really key players. And, of course, the dinoflagellates, things like Goniolax polyedra and Pyrocystis fusiformis, they're responsible for many of those amazing shimmering glows you sometimes see on the ocean surface at night when the water's disturbed.
Right, the sparkling wakes behind boats.
Exactly. And even terrestrial organisms have it, though much less often. We find certain fungi that make wood glow, and various land arthropods like fireflies, glowworms, click beetles, railroad worms, centipedes, millipedes, one type of snail, even some earthworms glow. But here's a key point. No naturally bioluminescent flowering plants, birds, reptiles, amphibians, or mammals. It's a trait found very specifically across a diverse but limited range of life, and it's overwhelmingly dominant in the ocean.
That's an incredible roll call of who glows. It's truly amazing how many different creatures have harnessed this ability. You mentioned Edith Witter bringing some of the weirdest and most brilliant adaptations to light, sometimes literally. Which creatures really show off the sheer ingenuity of bioluminescence in action? Like, how exactly do they use this light?
Yeah, Witter's research and her personal accounts really bring this hidden world to life. They show the strategic brilliance of these animals. Take the saber-toothed viperfish. It looks terrifying, right? But it uses several different kinds of bioluminescence for different jobs. It's a true master of light control, using it for hunting and defense in its pitch-black world.
A multi-tool of light.
Pretty much. Then there's the stoplight fish, which Witter often talks about. What's so cool about it is that it can make both blue and red light. Now remember, most deep-sea animals only see and make blue light because it travels best, but the stoplight fish uses its red light like a secret sniper scope. It can light up prey that literally cannot see red light, so it can sneak up and hunt completely undetected. It might also use this red light as a private channel, maybe for mating signals, without alerting bigger predators that only see blue. The blue light, then, is probably more like its high beams for general searching. Witter actually copied this system for her Eye in the Sea camera, using red light so she could watch animals without them knowing she was there. It's such an elegant solution.
That's brilliant. Using light to see without being seen. Perfect stealth mode.
Yeah, exactly. And the anglerfish is probably the most famous glowing predator. Instantly recognizable by its lure, the esca. It's this fleshy bit dangling in front of its mouth, and it contains symbiotic bacteria that glow continuously. This lure attracts curious prey right towards its jaws, a classic come-here strategy. It probably also helps find mates in that vast darkness, just a simple, super effective beacon.
And what about the giant squid? That was a huge deal, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The giant squid was legendary but elusive, never seen alive until 2012. It was just too fast, too smart for traditional nets or subs. We knew it existed mainly from dead ones washed up. Witter's breakthrough in finally filming one alive involved using a bioluminescent lure designed to mimic a distressed jellyfish, what she called a burglar alarm. The idea wasn't that the squid wanted to eat the lure itself. It was that a flashing, distressed creature often signals that a larger predator is nearby, something the squid might be interested in, maybe as food, maybe as a rival. It attracted the squid's attention. It really shows how much we're still discovering about basic life right here on Earth, doesn't it? That something so huge could stay hidden until we learn to, essentially, speak its language of light. What a moment that must have been.
A truly massive achievement, using their own light against them in a way.
Kind of, yeah. The vampire squid, Vampyluroteuthis infernalis, is another unique one. Despite the name, it's not really a squid or an octopus, and unlike other squid, it doesn't have an ink sac. Instead, when it gets disturbed, it shoots out this cloud of glowing goo, luminous secretions from its arm tips. Creates this dazzling, confusing display for defense. It also has light organs on its arm tips that can become fluorescent after they flash, adding to the complexity.
And those pyrosomes you mentioned.
Right, pyrosomes. They're colonial tunicates, meaning they're made of thousands of tiny individual animals called zooids living together in this tube structure. Each tiny zood can flash blue-green light, and they coordinate their flashing, responding to the light from their neighbors, even from other nearby colonies. This allows the whole colony to coordinate things like swimming or filtering water. It's like a collective brain made of light, amazing communication.
Incredible.
Then there's the sea firefly, Vargula hilgendorfiae. It's a tiny crustacean, an ostracod. When it's bothered, it releases this cloud of shimmering blue particles, confuses predators. This stuff is apparently so bright that the Japanese army reportedly used dried sea fireflies during World War II as a faint, clandestine light source for reading maps at night. Shows its practical uses even back then.
No way.
Yeah. And the loose-jaw dragonfishes, like Malacosteus niger, Aristostomias, Pachystomias, we mentioned their red light before. They're unique because they can both make and see long wavelength red light. Most other deep-sea animals can't see red, so it's like having night vision goggles in a world where everyone else is blind to that wavelength. It acts as a perfect private spotlight for hunting red pigmented prey, which would otherwise be invisible against the dark background. And get this, Malacosteus actually gets the pigments it needs for red vision by eating copepods that have consumed phytoplankton containing chlorophyll derivatives. It literally eats its way to seeing red. They also produce blue light from other photophores, the light organs, so they have a complex light toolkit.
That's wild, diet giving you superpowers.
Pretty much. And finally, lanternfishes, the family Myctophidae. They are one of the most species-rich fish families down there. They have these really intricate species-specific patterns of photophores along their sides. The thinking is these unique patterns help them recognize their own kind for mating. This is super important alongside their counter-illumination, that trick of matching the downwelling light with lights on their belly to hide their silhouette. Their amazing ability to diversify into so many different species seems directly linked to evolving these specific light patterns. It helps them find the right mates and keep populations distinct in an environment that doesn't have many physical barriers.
Wow. It's like every single creature has its own special light signature, its own reason for glowing, all finely tuned by millions of years of evolution. Which brings me to maybe the most fascinating question. How did all this glowing even start? Given how complex making light seems, it's kind of surprising it's so common down there. Is there like a common ancestor of glowing, or did it pop up independently lots of times?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And maybe one of the most amazing evolutionary parts of this story is that bioluminescence seems to have evolved independently more than 40 times, maybe even more than 50 times, across all the organisms alive today that glow.
50 times. Independently.
At least. This incredible convergence where different groups arrive at the same solution tells us two things. One, how incredibly important making light must be for survival down there. And two, maybe counterintuitively, that it might be relatively easy, evolutionarily speaking, to evolve under the right conditions. It's just a massive testament to natural selection in the dark. Now, how did it start? There are a couple of leading ideas, mainly focused on the ocean. Researchers like Howard Seliger back in '93 and Rees and others in '98, they independently came up with this idea. They suggested that luciferins, those light-making compounds, especially coelentrazine, which is the most common one in the sea, found in like 9 different phyla, might have originally functioned mainly as antioxidants.
Antioxidants, like vitamin C.
Kind of, yeah. Their main job would have been protecting organisms in the upper ocean from harmful reactive oxygen species, ROS, things like hydrogen peroxide and superoxide radicals. These are nasty byproducts of metabolism and also generated by sunlight hitting the water. So luciferins might have started out just mopping up these damaging molecules. Then the idea is the switch from antioxidation to light emission, what scientists call a functional shift, probably happened as species move deeper down. In the deep ocean, there's much less light, and metabolic rates might be lower, so the exposure to those reactive oxygen species drops way down. This reduced oxidative stress means maybe you don't need such strong antioxidant defenses anymore, and that allowed the natural faint chemical glow, the chemiluminescence of these antioxidant compounds to be sort of harnessed and amplified for making useful light. It's a brilliant example of exaptation. A trait evolved for one thing gets repurposed for something totally different, like, feathers are originally for warmth, later being used for flight.
Nature being incredibly resourceful.
Exactly. Now, what about the luciferases, the enzymes? Well, people used to think they were just specialized types of oxygenases, enzymes dealing with oxygen. But the genetic and biochemical evidence now suggests they're distinct. Their main role isn't just detoxifying oxygen, it's more about creating the perfect chemical environment for the luciferin to glow efficiently. They boost the quantum yield, that's basically how much light you get out for the energy you put in, and stop the reaction from fizzling out unproductively. They make the light bright and effective.
So nature basically found a way to take a simple protective mechanism, something almost like internal rust proofing, and turn it into this incredibly complex tool for communication and survival.
Yeah.
It's just a profoundly clever. And it makes me wonder, too, do the animals always make their own luciferins? Or could they maybe get them from what they eat?
That's another really key part of the story, and yeah, you hit on it. Dietary linkages. It turns out many organisms, maybe surprisingly, don't actually synthesize their own luciferins from scratch. Instead, they get them from their diet, just like we get essential vitamins from our food. For instance, krill, euphausiids, often get dinoflagellate luciferin by eating glowing dinoflagellates directly. And remember the Malacosteus dragonfish needing chlorophyll derivatives for its red vision. It gets those from the copepods it eats, which ate phytoplankton.
So they eat the glow.
In a way, yes. This reliance on diet strongly suggests that at least some of the bioluminescence we see today must be a relatively recent development, evolutionarily speaking, post-Cambrian. What that means is these glowing traits probably had to evolve in predators after their prey had already evolved the ability to make luciferins, and those luciferins became common in the food web. It's quite an elegant shortcut for evolution. If the fuel, the luciferin, is readily available in your dinner, all you need to evolve is the spark plug, the luciferase enzyme, to trigger the light emission from the fuel you just ate. It really shows how opportunistic and efficient evolution can be, just constantly repurposing what's already there.
It's just staggering how many different ways these creatures have found to use this glowing ability. It makes you realize light isn't just for seeing in the deep. It's like fundamental to their whole way of life.
Absolutely. And what becomes really clear when you study this is that bioluminescence often serves multiple roles for just one organism. And these roles are probably way more complex and subtle than what we can just see in a lab tank. Natural behavior is always richer. Let's start with defense. Light gets used in so many clever ways to avoid being eaten. One common trick is startle and escape. Just a sudden bright flash can startle and distract the predator, maybe cause confusion about exactly where the prey went, buying just enough time to get away. We see this in tiny copepods, shrimp, some fish like tube shoulder circi, comb jellies, siphonophores, even arrowworms. It's a momentary shock.
A flashbang defense.
Kind of. Another defense is the smokescreen or decoy. Instead of ink, they shoot out a cloud of glowing fluid or particles. Some deep-sea shrimps squirt glowing mucus. The vampire squid, as we said, releases that luminous goo from its arm tips. Benthic scale worms, Polynoidae, can actually shed glowing scales that keep flashing after they're detached, a perfect distractive decoy. And some newly discovered deep-sea worms carry these little luminous bombs they actually drop when they're disturbed, creating this bright diversion while they make a run for it. They're literally using parts of themselves as fireworks for survival.
Sacrificing a part to save the whole.
Exactly, which leads to autotomizing body parts. Some animals detach a whole glowing limb or section to distract a predator. The deep-sea squid Octopotethus dilatron can let go of its bioluminescent arms, which keep twitching and glowing, drawing the predator's focus while the squid jets away. Brittle stars and some deep-sea sea cucumbers on the seafloor do this too, detaching glowing body parts. A costly defense, but better than being eaten entirely.
That's intense.
Then there's the really clever burglar alarm defense. This is wild. The organism flashes, not necessarily to scare off the thing attacking it, but to attract an even bigger predator to the scene. The hope is the new arrival will eat the original attacker.
Calling in the bigger fish.
Precisely. Dinoflagellates flashing when disturbed might be doing this, attracting things that eat the tiny grazers eating them. The Atolla jellyfish makes this very specific pattern display, presumably to signal effectively to larger predators that have good eyes. And yeah, that's the principle Edith Witter used with her light lure to attract the giant squid. It's a risky, high-stakes game that plays on the whole food web dynamics.
So clever. Any other defenses?
Yes. Light can also be a warning signal, what scientists call aposematism, basically signaling I'm toxic or I taste disgusting. Firefly, larvae glow to warn predators off. Some millipedes do too. In the ocean, things like scale worms, some jellyfish, brittle stars, that freshwater limpet Litia neratoids, which makes greenish glowing slime, and the marine snail Hinia brasiliana, which flashes blue-green light through its shell, are all thought to use light as a warning sign. And finally, maybe one of the most sophisticated defenses, counter-illumination camouflage. This is amazing. An animal living in the twilight zone, where there's still faint light from above, uses light organs, photophores, on its belly to perfectly match the brightness and color of the downwelling sunlight. By doing this, it completely hides its silhouette from predators looking up from below. It becomes effectively invisible. It's incredibly common in fish like hatchetfish, lanternfish, ponyfish, and also some squid. They become ghosts in the water column, masters of hiding in plain sight using light.
That is just an incredible toolkit of defensive strategies. From a quick flash to calling in backup to becoming invisible, masters of light. But surely light isn't just for defense. It must be just as critical for getting food, too.
Oh, absolutely. Bioluminescence is equally vital for offense and predation. It turns light into a powerful hunting tool. The most famous example, again, is the use of lures. The deep-sea anglerfish with its glowing esca dangled right by its mouth to attract prey. That's the classic, but others do it too. Cycinophores, like the genus Arena, use red bioluminescent tips on their long, trailing tentacles to lure fish in. On land, the larvae of fungus gnats glow to attract insects toward their sticky mucus fishing lines. It's an irresistible beacon in the darkness for unsuspecting prey.
Like a deadly neon sign.
Pretty much. Then there's illumination for actively finding prey, sometimes stealthily. We talked about the stoplight fish and its red sniper scope. Emitting red light lets it see prey that can't see red light, allowing it to sneak up undetected. Deep-sea barbelled dragonfishes also use red light for this kind of stealth hunting. They literally see what others can't. Seeing the invisible.
Right. And it's not just the glowing animals themselves that benefit. There's also what you might call passive revelation. This is where predators that don't make their own light might still use the bioluminescence of other organisms to help them find food. Think about elephant seals, or ocean sunfish, or leatherback turtles hunting jellyfish. They might actually use the light flashes of the jellies to locate them more easily in the dim light or darkness. There's even a hypothesis that sperm whales might intentionally use the white lining inside their mouths to reflect or stimulate bioluminescence from squid, essentially making the squid light up and easier to catch. And the megamouth shark, which isn't bioluminescent, has this distinct white band on its upper jaw. It's thought this might reflect ambient light or maybe bioluminescence to attract plankton closer to its mouth while it filter feeds. So the influence of living light ripples right through the food web. It's like the entire deep-sea ecosystem, from the tiniest plankton to the biggest whales, is somehow connected and orchestrated by light and shadow. So beyond hunting and hiding, what about talking to each other? How do these creatures use light for communication in such a huge, dark place?
Communication is another massive area where bioluminescence is key. It enables some incredibly complex social interactions, acting as a vital language. One of the most obvious uses is attracting mates. Fireflies are the classic example here, right? Their species-specific flash patterns are basically coded messages, love signals, to find and choose a partner in the dark. Click beetles use orange light when they're flying, probably also as a sexual attractant. The stoplight fish's private red light channel might be used for courtship, signaling to mates without alerting predators or rivals. Ponyfishes, dragonfishes also use their light patterns to find potential mates. It's a courtship dance written in light.
Light up Lonely Hearts ads.
You could say that. And this leads directly into species recognition. In the deep sea, it's vast, often featureless. There aren't many physical barriers stopping different species from mixing. So having unique bioluminescent signals, like the lanternfish's complex side patterns or the different shapes and flash patterns of dragonfish chin barbels, becomes crucial. It helps ensure that individuals find and mate with the correct species. It prevents hybridization and keeps populations genetically distinct. Think of it like unique badges or calls.
Makes sense. What about at the smaller scale?
Well, at the microscopic level, you have quorum sensing in bacteria. This is fascinating. In many types of bioluminescent bacteria, they don't just glow all the time. They release these small chemical signals out into the environment. Only when the population density gets high enough, when there are enough bacteria crowded together, do these signal molecules reach a concentration that triggers all the bacteria to switch on their light-producing genes. It's like a collective decision. Okay, there are enough of us now to make a difference. Let's all glow together. It's a strength in numbers approach. This explains things like those incredible milky seas reported by ships, vast areas of ocean glowing continuously due to huge bacterial blooms. It also explains why symbiotic bacteria, like Vibrio fischeri, glow steadily inside their host organism.
Bacterial light switch based on population.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. And for colonial animals like pyrosomes, those tube-like tunicates, bioluminescence allows for colony coordination. Remember, each little zooid flashes, and they respond to the light from their neighbors, even from other colonies nearby. This rhythmic flashing lets the whole colony coordinate its efforts, like swimming together or pumping water for filter feeding. It's a stunning example of collective behavior mediated purely by light signals.
A glowing community effort.
Exactly. And finally, in a slightly different vein, bioluminescence is even used by scientists for nervous system mapping. Because in many organisms, the light production is directly controlled by nerves. Watching the pattern and speed of the light emission can give researchers a visual map of how fast nerve signals travel. They've done this in jellyfish, Salphozoans, and the sea pansy Ranilla. It's like a natural, built-in way to visualize neural activity in real time, helping understand fundamental biology.
So this living light isn't just a cool biological trick. It's this profound tool that's actually unlocking secrets across all sorts of scientific fields. What does this mean for how we actually explore this amazing glowing world, and what kind of tech is helping us understand it better?
Absolutely. The study of bioluminescence has really been pushed forward by some key pioneers and, of course, ongoing technological leaps. Edith Witter's contributions are absolutely central here. She co-founded ORCA, the Ocean Research and Conservation Association. She developed extremely sensitive deep-sea light meters and special cameras, like her remotely operated system called the Eye in the Sea. This lets researchers monitor the seafloor in real time without disturbing things too much with bright lights and noisy subs. And her persistence, as we mentioned, using that bioluminescent lure principle, led to that first ever video of a live giant squid in 2012. That was huge.
Definitely a milestone.
But it's really important to stress the context here. The chronic underfunding of deep-sea research. It's kind of shocking, really. Despite the deep ocean making up most of our planet's biosphere, it gets a tiny fraction of the funding compared to, say, space exploration. People often say the seafloor is less well mapped than the dark side of the moon, and it's largely true. Trillions might go to Mars, while ocean exploration gets comparatively little. This isn't just about scientific curiosity. It means we are literally exploiting these deep environments through fishing, mining, drilling, before we even properly understand what's there, who lives there, or how these ecosystems function globally. It's a potential tragedy of lost knowledge and irreversible damage.
That's a stark contrast. But there have been some major discoveries, right? Like GFP.
Oh, absolutely. And ironically, sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from studying these seemingly obscure deep-sea creatures. The discovery of green fluorescent protein, GFP, is a prime example. Osamu Shimomura first isolated the protein acrine, which is linked to GFP, from the crystal jelly Echoria victoria way back in 1961. Decades later, Shimomura, along with Martin Chalfie and Roger Weitzian, won the 2008 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, not just for finding GFP, but for developing it into this revolutionary tool for biological research. GFP wasn't just about making things glow prettily. It allowed scientists, for the first time, to attach a glowing tag to specific proteins inside living cells without harming them. You could literally watch processes happening at the molecular level in real time. It completely transformed cell biology, genetics, medicine, just opened up entire new fields.
A tiny jellyfish protein changed the world.
Pretty much. And that led to incredible biotechnology applications. Luciferase systems, the enzymes that trigger the light, are now standard tools in genetic engineering. They're used as reporter genes, basically. They light up to tell you if a specific gene you're interested in is turned on or off. They're also vital for biomedical research using bioluminescence imaging. Scientists can track cancer cells, monitor infections, or see how drugs are distributed inside a living animal, all non-invasively. The firefly luciferase gene was put into tobacco plants way back in 1986, making them glow. Bioluminescent bacteria like Vibrio are workhorse models in labs. There's even experimental cancer treatment using something called bioluminescent activated destruction, where light activation triggers cell death. And ATP bioluminescence is used routinely as a biosensor to test for microbial contamination in water, or on surfaces it detects the energy molecule ATP, indicating living cells are present. Critical for public health.
Amazing applications. What about studying bioluminescence out in the ocean itself?
Yeah, scientists are getting much better at monitoring bioluminescence in situ right there in its natural environment. This gives us real ecological data. Researchers Severine Martini and Steve Haddock at MBAR did the first big quantitative study, looking at how many animals glowed at different depths in Monterey Bay. They found, as we said, about 75% of animals between the surface and 4,000 meters deep are bioluminescent. They also found that jellyfish, comb jellies, worms, and larvaceans were the dominant glowing groups, but their importance varied with depth. Their work showed that the proportion of glowing animals stays relatively constant with depth, even though the total number of animals decreases as you go deeper. It provides a crucial baseline.
So even particle physics helps.
Weirdly, yes. Those huge deep-sea neutrino observatories like Duman near Hawaii, Nestor off Greece, and Terras off France, they have these incredibly sensitive light detectors designed to catch faint flashes from cosmic neutrinos hitting seawater. But they also pick up all the bioluminescence from marine life as background noise. It turns out this noise isn't random. The patterns of flashes actually correlate with things like current speed and turbulence, giving oceanographers unexpected data on biological activity and water movement even thousands of meters down. We also have autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, being used now. They can measure the different flash characteristics, the timing, the brightness of dinoflagellates versus small zooplankton, allowing scientists to map their relative abundances over large areas and understand their interactions.
Using the light signatures to count them.
Exactly. And finally, bioluminescence is proving useful for environmental monitoring, especially for detecting harmful algal blooms, or HABs. Real-time monitoring systems can use the presence and intensity of bioluminescent dinoflagellates as an indicator. Even if the main species causing the toxic bloom isn't itself luminous, its presence often coincides with conditions that also favor glowing dinoflagellates. So, seeing a spike in bioluminescence can provide an early warning that conditions are right for a potentially harmful bloom, giving coastal managers time to react.
That's incredible. From deep-sea secrets to cancer treatments to early warnings for algal blooms. But let's turn to that critical point you raised earlier, the future of the ocean, human impact. Is there hope?
It is a sobering reality, and scientists like Edith Witter speak about it with real urgency. She talks about her deep concern that we're exploiting the deep ocean before we even know what's in it, calling the potential loss a tragedy of immeasurable proportions. The pace of change is alarming. We're fundamentally altering these incredibly complex systems that evolved over millions of years in the span of maybe a century. The consequences are likely to be profound and very long-lasting.
What are the specific big threats that are causing what Witter calls this gut-wrenching destruction?
Well, the list is depressingly long, and a lot of it happens far from our view, out of sight and out of mind, which makes it easier to ignore. Deep sea trawling is a major one. These huge nets dragged across the seabed just obliterate everything. Witter vividly describes seeing gorgeous undersea gardens, ancient, slow-growing deep-sea corals, many bioluminescent that took maybe over 1,000 years to grow, just turned into rubble by a single pass of a net fishing for shrimp. These ancient, complex habitats, she says, will never sustain life again in our lifetimes, or likely many lifetimes after ours. It's not just pretty corals. These are critical habitats, nurseries, feeding grounds for countless species. Their destruction sends ripples through the entire deep-sea food web.
That's devastating.
It is. Beyond trawling, there's the growing threat from seafloor mining for minerals and metals and deep-water oil and gas drilling. Countries like China are heavily investing in deep-sea capabilities. These activities disrupt vast areas, create plumes of sediment, noise pollution, chemical leaks, and physically destroy habitats we may not have even discovered yet. Recovery, if it happens at all, could take centuries or millennia. Then there's just the relentless onslaught of pollution. We're dumping enormous amounts of trash and plastic pollution and chemical pollution and nutrient pollution into the ocean. Plastics break down into microplastics that get eaten and move up the food chain. Chemical pollutants can disrupt delicate biological processes, maybe even bioluminescence itself. Nutrient pollution fuels those harmful algal blooms. Add to that overfishing, where in many places we're literally pulling out every last fish, collapsing stocks and disrupting ecosystems. And we're seeing widespread habitat destruction in coastal areas too. The loss of vital estuaries, the ocean's nurseries, the destruction of wetlands, coral reefs near the surface, and melting sea ice habitats. These are foundational ecosystems supporting both marine and terrestrial life.
And the big one, climate change.
Yes, the overarching threat is ocean acidification and warming, both driven by our excess carbon dioxide emissions. The ocean has been acting like a giant sponge, absorbing a huge amount of CO2 and heat, buffering us from the worst effects. But it comes at a cost. When CO2 dissolves in seawater, it forms carbonic acid, which lowers the ocean's pH. This makes it harder for marine organisms like corals, shellfish, plankton the base of the food web to build their shells and skeletons from calcium carbonate. It's literally dissolving the building blocks of marine life. This, combined with warming, is pushing the ocean towards a dangerous tipping point. Witter emphasizes people often don't grasp that we live on an ocean planet. This is the only place in the universe we know supports life, and we're fundamentally changing its chemistry in barely 100 years. The long-term consequences are just daunting.
It sounds incredibly bleak, almost overwhelming. Are there efforts underway to try and combat this? Is there any reason for hope amidst all this?
There are definitely efforts, and yes, there has to be hope. The work of organizations like ORCA, the Ocean Research and Conservation Association that Edith Witter co-founded, shows a tangible way forward. They focus heavily on technology for monitoring and understanding. They develop real-time water quality monitoring systems, creating visual pollution maps to show where toxic hotspots are. They run fish monitoring programs to check for toxins and heavy metals accumulating in the food chain. They're also working on low-cost, passive pollution sensors that anyone, citizen scientists, boaters, communities could deploy easily. The goal is to empower people with data about their local waters. A big focus for ORCA is protecting critical estuary ecosystems, like Florida's Indian River Lagoon. It used to be the most biodiverse estuary in North America, but now it's plagued by toxic algal blooms, brown tides, fish kills, starving manatees. It's a system under immense stress. Protecting these ocean nurseries is absolutely vital for the health of the wider ocean. It's about giving communities the tools and knowledge they need.
That sounds like crucial work. But facing such enormous challenges and the slow pace of political change sometimes, it must be hard to stay optimistic. What kind of message does someone like Witter, who's seen the beauty and the destruction firsthand, offer?
She offers a really powerful and I think essential message. It's about optimism born from necessity, the mindset of an explorer. She says explorers have to be optimists. You're constantly facing setbacks and difficulties and problems, and you have to be a problem solver. She recognizes that just hitting people with doom and gloom can make them switch off, feel helpless. So she tries to tap into that innate human drive for exploration, for discovery, and channel it. She encourages us all to become problem solvers who are going to have to explore the planet as it is and figure out how to deal with these problems. It's not about ignoring the grim reality. It's about facing it with curiosity, with ingenuity, and with the belief that understanding fuels the desire and the ability to protect. She truly believes that if people can see and understand this amazing hidden world, they'll want to save it.
We've covered such a huge amount there. They're really diving deep into the wonders of bioluminescence, from the precise chemistry of luciferins and luciferesis to that dazzling array of ways creatures use light defense, predation, communication lighting up the deep sea. We've seen how this living light popped up independently so many times, adapting for everything from startling predators to finding mates in total darkness. And we've learned how studying it led to Nobel Prizes, revolutionary biotech, and even tools to monitor our oceans. This deep dive really has shown us this incredibly complex system, so vital to life, and honestly, just a treasure trove of wonder we're still only starting to appreciate.
It really is. We've learned that bioluminescence, this phenomenon we're only just beginning to truly grasp, isn't just some beautiful sideshow. It's a fundamental language of life in our oceans, evolved over millions and millions of years. It's this ancient, intricate symphony of light that literally orchestrates entire ecosystems. So as we continue to uncover these complex systems and realize just how much of our own planet is still basically unexplored, maybe the thought to leave you with is this. What responsibility do we have, living on the only life-sustaining rock we know of in the universe, to protect this incredible glowing world, especially the vast parts of it we haven't even laid eyes on yet?
A profound question to carry with you. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the luminous magic of our oceans. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see a sparkle in the dark that tells a whole new story.